Studio B is back. I missed you. Did you miss me? Well, we are in our favorite location for taping Studio B, and it is Art St. Louis Mud Coffee, which is in our CBS building. We love coming here, and we want to thank them for allowing us to tape our latest segment here in their beautiful surroundings. All the artwork is for sale, by the way. The U.S. Census Bureau says that the number of African-American women starting businesses is at an all-time high. So what did I do? I called on some women I know who have started companies and are doing it. This is Nicole Adewale of Abna Engineering.
Hello.
It's so good to see you.
It is.
Your skin is fabulous.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Always.
Part of business ownership.
Yes, exactly.
You got to take care of yourself. You really do.
Right.
And some of you will see this face and think, wait a minute, I know her. Lorna Godwin from Vector Communications, who, how many years ago you were a television anchor and reporter?
20 plus.
Has it been that long?
Yes, it has.
Okay, quick story. I was working in Cape Girardeau and covering a story, and St. Louis media came to Cape Girardeau, and Lorna Godwin was one of those people who came. Do you remember the story? Young man, hazing death. And I remember thinking, I will never make it in St. Louis media because I'm not tall. Because everybody was
and I'm 5'11".
And you know, and you've mentioned that before, and so that connection to us. So Michael, the young man who passed,
yes,
graduated from high school with me, from University City High School in 1986. So I just told my age.
My goodness, my goodness. Well, I wanted to bring you together, and let me tell you, there were so many women that I could call on because there are a lot of women just like this starting businesses in St. Louis. We don't have as much time as I would love, but Nicole, take us to the story of you starting a company with your husband, by the way.
Yes. So we've been in business for 21 years this year, and it was one of those things where I was always interested in engineering. Both of us are civil engineers and have the entrepreneurial spirit in my family. My grandmother had a small business when I was growing up, and I always wanted to have a business. He the same, growing up in Nigeria, and he actually started a business with some of his friends. It was about 10 guys in their 20s who started a business together. That didn't quite work out.
I would imagine not.
So he looked at me, he said, you're an engineer, I'm an engineer, let's start a business together. Now it took a lot of faith and a lot of prayer and a lot of dedication, because at the time we had 2 very small children, and we have since had 2 more. So we have 4 children now that range in age from 22 to 11. But we started a business ourselves, we did a lot of networking, we put our own money into the business, and just grew it from there with a lot of help from friends. And
Lorna, you were in television.
I was in television news for close to 20 years, and for personal reasons, which I will say now, I was trying to get pregnant and couldn't, and my doctor said, you got to relieve that stress of being a daily news reporter.
Oh.
You know what that's like.
Yes, yes.
And I really wanted a child, so I said, I'll quit. And still didn't have a child, and was just working from my home with Godwin Communications, doing some media relations and video production, where, long story short, a friend was supposed to get a contract, but then she had to move out of town following her husband. She said, you would be great for this contract. And I ended up taking it over for her, getting it, and it turned into Vector Communications. Nicole is an entrepreneur. I call myself a business owner. It was not this big dream that I had of owning my own business one day.
This was not something you always thought of, right?
No. I wanted to be that broadcast journalist and go on with that. But what I will say is that I was prepared to take advantage of the opportunity that came before me. And that was Vector Communications. And I met another African-American woman who was transitioning in her professional life, had been in sales and marketing for several years, and was tired of that and wanted to do more meaningful work. And that was my thing. Once I decided I was staying in St. Louis, I wanted to use my journalistic skills to make a difference in the community.
And you are doing that.
So that's how Vector Communications got started.
And we should make the point that although there are 3 black women sitting here, Abna Engineering might be owned by black people, but that it's not as if that's who you serve and only who you serve at all.
Absolutely. We're civil engineers, so we design roads, bridges, and sewers. Our clients are MSD, Monsanto, school districts. A lot of people nickname us the United Nations of engineering firms because we have people from literally around the world. Almost every continent is represented. We have people from all different kinds of socioeconomic backgrounds, which we think not only makes us special, but helps us to do what we call delight our clients with excellent engineering service.
And Lorna, the same is true for you. I know you're tackling issues in the community.
Yes. And Vector Communications is a public engagement and communications consulting firm. So by public engagement, we're the two-way line of communication between a client, which can be a governmental, quasi-governmental, nonprofit corporation, and their target audience, and bridging that gap to reach them, whether it's just trying to solve an issue that's going on in our community or with that organization, or trying to reach them. And then we also do strategic planning, media relations, video production. But it's all about empowering individual neighborhoods, organizations to make a difference, giving people a voice in issues.
There is a lot of fear out there, and as you both know, my husband is a small business owner. He's a landscaper. 10 years now.
Yes.
All right.
Woo, I am the unpaid staff, let me just say that. And you have to have that. And we still have a lot of days where we think, you know, how do we maintain this contract, and how do we get the next contract, and, you know, how do we, you know, if we have big equipment issues. And so speak to the fear, especially that women have, because we're the ones raising the children.
Yes.
And we're the ones we're the daughters, we're the women in society. There's a lot of fear.
So interesting that you asked that, because we have a new small business working for us. It's our janitorial services, Peace of Mind janitorial services.
Do they do residential?
Yes, they
do.
do.
Okay.
And they are a husband and wife team, also a couple of faith. And I was talking to the husband about that just today, because they're looking at getting a bigger contract for which they're going to need some big equipment. And he's very old school, doesn't want to do any loans, but I told him the best way to start your company is to finance yourself up to a point. But then as you continue to grow, and you've heard the term working in your on your business versus in your business, if you only rely on your own finances when you're at that beginning part of growing, then you're limited by your personal wealth, as opposed to leveraging additional resources for other things, so such as equipment or having the cash flow to be able to pay for the additional people that's necessary. So, but the one thing I want to say again, it takes a lot of faith. It really does. A lot of faith. And you want to stretch out to your family networks, especially for a woman-owned business. My father, who is retired, still helps us out. He's not only our human resources consultant, but when we have to be out in the evening, he goes and picks up my children and things like that.
Important.
So for women in business, you have to have your family behind you and include them in the business in some form or fashion, and make them feel like they have some ownership, even if they don't ever get a dime out of it.
Right.
Because women have to have that level of support to be successful. Our society still views men as being able to just jump out there and roll and be independent, but men need to do that as well.
And people need to understand that owning a business is 24/7.
Yes.
And that was the biggest adjustment for me, having been a broadcast journalist and always used to deadlines.
Certain hours,
and then
yeah.
it's over. You know,
Yes.
you report your story, it's over. Business is constant. You're either working with your employees, you're working on projects, or you're trying to bring in business.
Yeah.
You're networking.
So
I see you all the time.
It never
Yes.
ends. And that is important. My partner, Jessica, she was a single mom. So when I coerced her, let's go into business together, because we were two smart women, and I thought that working together we could make a difference. But she was a single mom. So she said, well, if we do this, we have to do work in St. Louis. I can't go out of town. So that was the deal we made. Even though in our business, people were telling us, you don't want to do public engagement where you live. You run into these people in the grocery store and it'll be terrible. But we decided, because of Jessica's parameters, and also because we wanted to hone our skills in our own community first, that we did it that way. And it worked out, but it is still 24/7 for the most part.
All right, we're going to break this into two parts because we have so much to say, and come back and talk about more advice of how you do this, and why it is so important that women who look like these women should own businesses in our region. We'll take a break on Studio B and come back with more.